Right, so in this lesson you're going to apply a new technique which is stippling, and stippling essentially is drawing dots. So first thing you're going to do is draw dots that create an outline around her eye area. And then once you've done that, you shade in the pupil, and then you create an outline using stippling technique that goes towards the pupil, and then you start adding some tone around the rims and the edges of her eyes, which is her iris. The next step, adding more outlines, and again using your stippling techniques to create an outline itself rather than just drawing a line. Your number one rule with stippling technique, you're only allowed to draw dots. So make sure you use the image to follow and use that as a guide so that you know how much tone you need to add, or where the direction of the shape, how to draw it out. So make sure you're applying observational drawing skills with it. I shouldn't hear a loud banging sound on a table like this. I should hear literally nothing when you're creating your stippling technique. So make sure you are pressing lightly so that you're not damaging the pen and that you're using it in a correct way. So with the eyebrows, you create an outline using stippling technique, and then you overlap it with some tone and more outlines to make it look more 3D and realistic of an eyebrow. Make sure you are refining your work so that the quality of your work remains high. And you just continue with this process by looking back and forth the original image to find where the tone, dark tone is and where the light tone is, and that you're showing that using the stippling technique. You can pause the video now so that you can watch, so that you can have a go in drawing the eye area itself. You've got 5 minutes. Right, so the next part is adding in the nostril, drawing the nose in. So essentially with the nose, you only need to draw the side of it as an outline, and the nostril you will shade it in a very dark tone. The rest of it is just tonal based. So look at the image carefully to find where the dark tone is, and only add dark tone where it shows dark tone. Don't just start stippling for the sake of it. Think about purposely how it makes a very impactful drawing when you add dark tones in the right places, so then it starts to look 3D. You can pause the video to do the nose now, and you've got 5 minutes. Okay, so the next section is drawing in the rest of her face, and again you just want to repeat that process how I've shown you drawing the eye area. So look for dark tones and show dark tones by adding lots of dots in that area, and then you gradually change your tone as it goes away from that dark tone and showing more lighter tones. And in order to show light tone, you need to add fewer dots and making sure that they're more spaced out. Whilst you're doing this stippling technique, make sure you're looking at the other side of her face that you've drawn in from last lesson, and making sure you're thinking about proportion, facial proportion. So the eye should be leveled with the other eye, thinking about the shape of the nose, making it look like the image and realistic, and the shape of the lips, the size of the face. So make sure you're thinking about all of these things that you've learned from previous lesson. Okay, so at this point you should be able to work independently in adding tone to the rest of her face. Use the worksheets to help guide you on that, and you will have about 10 to 15 minutes of drawing in the rest of the face using stippling technique. And then we're going to come back to the next section of the video in terms of how to draw in the hair. Pause the video now. Okay, so for the hair section, you would do the same technique as hatching. So you're hatching your lines, creating these short marks, and avoiding the highlighted area where the light touches first. You can create some curved lines over on top of that area of the highlights to make it look like it's part of the hair. Where the roots are, you can see I've added lots of dark tone. That's because light can't reach there, and I'm using the image as my reference to make that decision. Don't rush your work when you're drawing in the hair, because the hatching techniques needs to be carefully thought through. Do go back in your stippling technique and refine on your drawing. As this is a demo, this is an incomplete drawing, but hopefully you guys can now start work independently with the task in front of you.